got it on?
Yep, it's on.
First of all, I was born in Spanish Fork, Utah. Daughter, actually the fourth daughter of William Reed and Helen Tuttle Jacks. I have 5 sisters and 5 brothers, so there's 11 altogether. Merlene died at birth, and then Janice was born a year later, followed by Reed and John, Deanna, Kent, myself, James, Brian, Irene, and Evelyn. We were a fairly happy family. My dad was a jack of all trades. The only way he got himself through college, and that was in the 30s, was by buying gallons of whiskey, putting them in 5th bottles, and selling them for about 3 times as much as he paid for the gallon of whiskey. He slept in a coffin when he worked for Deseret Mortuary in Salt Lake. My mother was a housewife, but a very good one. She taught me a lot of things, how to cook, how to do things, but she never could teach me how to sew. I went to school in Spanish Fork, all the grade schools, and always on my mother's birthday, I always remembered to bring a rose to her because she let me live. And the reason I say that is because she was told that after Kent was born...
We're going to have to pause. It's hard because this doesn't... there we go, that'd be good. You were telling a story about Kent.
Well, when he was born, she had a difficult time, and the doctor said that for her to have William fixed or have no more kids. And she stood up to him and she says, I wouldn't even think of asking my husband to do that. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm too young not to have more kids. And so she had myself and 4 more. And to this day, I always like to go and put a flower on her grave in commemoration that she let me live. I went, like I said before, I went to school in Spanish Fork, did well. Then I went to BYU and graduated. And I was hired on at the Ute Indian Reservation down in Roosevelt and taught there for 6 months. At the same time, I was called to 5 church jobs, and it was related to the mission that they had there, and I was called through the stake to be on a full-time Indian mission, and as a result I had 5 church jobs. I got sick and had to give up everything, and I came home and I felt like I was a complete failure because I couldn't finish that. A little while later I went back, took my mother showed her the place where I worked. And when I came back, the little side window that's in a V on the side of the car was broken into. And it was tied to the steering wheel. Had dandelions and other flowers and rocks on the dashboard, which told me these Indians loved me and missed me. Because, as I understand, they hired an older guy to come and teach in my place, and the kids didn't come. So I felt like then I was a complete failure. About a year and a half later, I was asked to go on a blind date. So I stayed at my friend's place and was coming down the stairs, and I stepped in a mud puddle and fell in love with my future husband. And Daryl was quite shy, but when you get him going, he could talk your leg off. He came from a family that had 3 brothers, Steve and Donnie, and who else? Well, he would have had a sister, but she died when his mother fell. So, with his other 2 brothers, they farmed up there in Montana with his father, and his grandmother, his mother's mother, told him, if you're going to get ahead, you got to go to college. Because he got his high school diploma by correspondence. That's how difficult it was. And he could only do that between November and April. And so he went behind his folks' back, so to speak, and applied to BYU and was accepted. And they said, how are you going to pay for it? And he says, I got it all worked out. And he would share the calves that were born if they sold the cattle for him. That's how he got through school. Of course, when he came here to BYU, he thought BYU was at the very end of the center street. And he went up in there and, gee, this isn't like the BYU I knew or heard about. He'd actually visited the state hospital. He had something in common with one of the presidents of the church. I think it was Spencer W. Kimball. And so then he went on to BYU. He worked hard. He applied to work on the grounds crew, and he only got, he was the last one, and they could only choose one person more. And they said, is there anybody here that's worked on the farm? And Daryl raised his hand, and he was hired. He worked all 4 years, and of course, I went to nursing school after that and got my LPN license, and went at the hospital, Utah Valley, and worked for 6 years. We got him through school, and then not very long, Margaret came along, and then Heidi and Andrew and the rest. rest of the crew, Elizabeth, Kathy, and Chris. And the most that I have gained from my experience on this earth is to be honest in all your dealings. I learned a very valuable lesson. I kind of dipped into my mother's coin purse when I was growing up, and I took money that didn't belong to me to go buy candy. And I was caught. And they asked who I was, and I told them. And it's shame on you. I thought you were taught better. They let me go, and from then on, I said, no way. My dad taught me to be honest in all of my dealings. And when he passed away, I went to a pet shop to get, I think it was birdseed or something, and the lady gave me $1 too much. When I got home and I counted the change, I could have just said, yeah, she'll never miss it. But I decided, no, it's not right. My dad wouldn't want me to do that. Neither would my mother. And it'd go against everything I was taught, because church was important to me. And the commandments, Heavenly Father's commandments, were important to me. So I decided to go back, and I had to hurry. I made it back there, and I told him, you gave me $1 too much in change. My father died today. He taught me to be honest. And then I left. As I come to find out, that lady went home, told her husband, I have experienced this. I said, I wish other people could be as honest as that girl. Well, we moved here to 296 East, 2100 North in Provo, and I've been here ever since. Things that I've learned. There is God. He answers prayers. He answered my prayer in behalf of Elizabeth, and she's still here on this earth. And when I had a very stubborn, ornery boy who sat on the black couch and told me in so many words, you can't make me go to church, you can't make me go on a mission, you can't make me do this and this and this. And I looked at him and I says, we'll see. And I was on my knees constantly. Then he started coming out to church. Because every time I would open the door and say, Andrew, we're going to church, I'll miss you. And he came finally one day. He wore his grubby, old, everyday clothes, and he has holy tennis shoes. And then he started wearing his suit, but the holy tennis shoes remained. Finally, I got up enough nerve to ask him, I'm hoping I wouldn't chase him away, what's with the shoes? He says, I don't have anything that fits. And so the next day I took him out for a pair of nice new shoes to wear to church. I learned that friends are important, good friends. And it helped him in many, many ways. recently, 4 years ago, I was deathly sick. But I knew there was somebody in my bedroom. I opened my eyes. I couldn't see anything, but I could feel the presence of holy angels, I'm sure, watching out for me. And then I was taken to the hospital where I found I had some blood vessels break in my throat. I also found out I had liver disease along with the diabetes, and now I have 4 heart valves that are leaking, and yet I still go on. And as one bishop told me some time ago, he says, "You're the Energizer Bunny." And I've thought about that. Yeah, with the Lord's help, I am. And I will remain so until He takes me. But as far as leaving something to my posterity, I leave you my blessings, that you remain faithful in the church, that you will obey Heavenly Father's commandments, because that is the only way you will gain salvation.
That's good.